Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And Zach will be putting the post game in.
Great. Right, so
In a row, 11 wins on the season, and now your Houston Texans are heading to the postseason. I'm Jason Bristol here in the KHO 11 newsroom following the Texans' big 20-16 win over the Los Angeles Chargers. We will be hearing very soon from Coach DeMeco Ryans and quarterback C.J. Stroud following the win. We're also taking your comments, of course, including your one word, which we put on this board. So much to talk about with this team, this game, and everything which has transpired from September until now. It is amazing that this team was 0-3, 3-5, and now has won 8 games in a row, 11 wins on the season, and DeMeco Ryans is taking the Texans to the postseason for the 3rd straight year. That has never happened under any coach in Houston Texans history. The graphic was shown at the end of the game. Meanwhile, Zach Tawatari and I trying to look it up on ProFootballReference.com. And yes, as soon as the graphic came up, there it was. The Texans now making the postseason for the 3rd straight year. That had never happened before in Houston Texans history. We are on Facebook right now, so depending on which platform you're watching, also pull up the KHO 11 Facebook page and tell us what you're thinking about this game. Justin is weighing in. Justin, good to see you. It was truly a tale of two halves for the offense, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And this is the Houston Texans in a nutshell. These are the Houston Texans. This is what we've seen all season, and this is what we will continue to see throughout the 2025 season, no matter how long it lasts. The Texans will pretty much always be in a one-score game. They will have a few big plays on offense, and then it's really dicey. Another thing which is really fortunate about this win, the Texans escaped when it comes to injuries. Granted, Trent Brown, Ariante Ursary, the two big names not playing in this game, but when you watch the broadcast and you saw players like Azeez Al-Shire, Ed Ingram, Kamari Lassiter, all being banged up, and the Texans are very fortunate that those guys were able to come back and contribute and continue to play in this game. Cheryl is here. Her one word is a word that we talk about so much: defense. Defense. Let's go through some of these stats. C.J. Stroud, 16 of 28, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Justin Herbert, 21 of 32, 236 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The leading rusher for the Texans, Woody Marks, 19 carries, 71 yards. Texans will take that. Justin Herbert was the leading rusher for the Chargers, 6 carries, 37 yards. Of course, most of those yards coming on that 28-yard run. Juan says, I wish CJ can play an entire game or the Texans offense stop being so conservative. It is very interesting that what seems to be working the Texans find a way to not go back to it. Now, you could argue that at the end of the first half, perhaps the Texans should have been more conservative and just gone into halftime with that lead. Then they tried to go for more, and C.J. throws the pick. And, of course, the Chargers get that field goal near the end of the half. But the Chargers did everything they could, everything possible, to just hand this victory to the Texans. The best kicker in the National Football League misses a PAT and a field goal. Not necessarily in that order, but you know what I'm talking about. Juan says, same old. Gino says, Houston Texans Super Bowl bound. Listen, with this defense, anything is possible. Anything is possible. Laura says, ugh. How many times did Justin Herbert get sacked? I have it right here in front of me. 5 times, 35 yards. C.J. Stroud sacked 0 times. That's not to say he wasn't pressured. He was pressured. But give C.J. credit. And give this remanufactured offensive line credit as well, because you're missing your 2 starting tackles, your bookends, and the Texans allow only 2 picks and 0 sacks. Certainly one of those picks I know CJ would love to have back. Be interesting when he's asked about it, because it looked like he threw it right to the defender. Your leading receiver for the Texans was Jaden Higgins with 2 catches for 88 yards. Of course, the big 75-yarder. Nico Collins, 3 catches, 57 yards. A lot of targets spread around. I mean, that can be good, but I think I'd rather see more balls going to Nico Collins. 4 targets for Jaden Higgins. 4 targets for Nico Collins. 4 targets for Jalen Noel. 3 for Hutchinson, 4 for Schultz, 2 for Woody Marks, and 5 for Christian Kirk. So 5 for Christian Kirk, and he had 2 catches. Defensively, Henry Otoa had 12 tackles, 5 solos. Kamari Lassiter was a beast in this game. Azeez Al-Shire, both Lassiter and Al-Shire had 6 tackles. Henley for the Chargers had 10 sacks. Will Anderson credited with a half sack. Derek Barnett had 2. Danielle Hunter had 1. Denico Autry had 1. This guy wasn't watching this game. All right, tell me why. Talking about me? Please expand on what you're talking about. Let's see. Justin says predictable. Yes. Predictable. Tony says lucky. Nail biter from Norton Henry Decker. I'll put a hyphen in there. Nail biter. Kathy says, awesome. Justin adds a lot of throws CJ tries to get into the tightest window. Yeah, that's CJ Stroud, though. That's nothing new. He's done that throughout this season, throughout his career. But he throws such a beautiful ball when it's on target. I mean, he lays it right where that receiver doesn't have to do a lot to catch the football. It'll be interesting. I'm wondering if anyone will ask if the Texans early on, part of the game plan, they saw something that they thought that the Chargers were susceptible to the long throws. Juan says the offensive line works very well, but it seems at times CJ can't see the coverage and or the play calling with alternatives aren't flexible enough. It's interesting. The part of this offense is death by 1,000 cuts, and it's willing to take a lot of little plays over a big one if needed. So I thought CJ was decent. He certainly did enough, but one of those picks was not good, and it'd be interesting to see what he says about it. Tricia says, close call. Justin says, don't get me wrong, 8 wins in a row is impressive, but I still don't trust that offense fully, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And I think, and again, this is nothing against the Texans, at this point of the season, or when you're making this run, it appears the Texans have caught some of these teams at the right time. I don't know if the Texans beat the Chargers earlier in the season. Now, they beat them last year in the playoffs. Maybe I'm wrong. Brady says, want to see the Texans go deep in the playoffs. Tricia says, close call. Tricia says, a win is a win. And I'm certain that DeMeco Ryans will say that. I'm certain that DeMeco Ryans will say that from the podium. I'm just checking to see, and DeMeco is at the podium, so we will be hearing from him shortly. The video courtesy of the Houston Texans. Justin says, good thing is we eliminated the Colts from the playoffs. Colts were the hottest team and missed the playoffs. Colts were the hottest team in the NFL, but again, injuries. And the Texans are just so fortunate that they are coming out of this game without any major problems injury-wise, because when you looked at the replay on some of these plays that these injured or Texans were down on the ground, Ed Ingram getting rolled up on, Azeez Al-Shire getting plowed into by his own man, Kamari Lassiter's knee buckling, and you're just thinking, and the body language, you're like, oh my goodness, this is not good. But it appears as that all these guys will be able to be okay. I mean, they came back to play, and now the Texans, having clinched a playoff spot, certainly so much now hangs on the Colts-Jaguars game on Sunday. If the Colts and Jaguars, if the Jaguars win, then they win the division, likely. So we'll see how that plays out. But again, it was simple for the Texans. It was win and you're in, and that's what the Texans did. Justin says, I guess old man Rivers for the Colts had his comeback halted. Yes. But give the Colts a lot of credit. I mean, they did not go down without a fight. Scott says C.J. still needs to play better. Yep, I would agree with that. The whole offense needs to play better. Aside from maybe 3 or 4, 5 plays, this whole offense needs to play better. But these are the Texans. Trust your eyes. We see them each and every week. These are the Texans. A defense that is championship caliber, and it's roll the dice on offense. And in this game, they did just enough offensively to get the job done. Just enough. Appreciate all of you hanging with us here. Let's look at some of the stats overall. First downs, Texans, Chargers, 16 all. Lennis Spencer says, Kaylee. Yep. Still not sold. Here's another issue for the Texans in this game. Third down efficiency, 3 for 11. That's going to be a problem in a playoff game. Chargers, 6 of 15. Texans with 362 yards of total offense. What is it, 120 of that, roughly, on 2 plays? Texans averaged 5.8 yards per play. A lot of that, courtesy of those 2 chunk plays. Chargers, 4.7. Penalties, also a problem for the Texans, 8 for 70. But again, that's typical of this team and a team coached by DeMeco Ryans. That is kind of typical for the Texans. Joe says Texans need to score at least 1 touchdown in the second half. Yep. Leonard says we need more offense and Stroud just stress out panics, needs to work more offense in order to go deep in the playoffs. Yep, they need definitely more offense to go deep in the playoffs. Daryl says including the offensive coordinator, maybe that's a connection. Let's see. Calling pass plays and run scenarios too often. Joe again says Texans need to score at least one touchdown in the second half. Justin says can't go a whole game without some fans calling for Mills to get in. That's all that was happening in the second half. Yeah, the ceiling is much higher with C.J. Tricia says we need to see the team that won against Arizona, 40 points scored. That is what we need. Yes, and you probably need to play a team like the Cardinals, which is the worst team in the NFC. You were playing a much better team. You're playing a team that certainly looks different with some of the injuries it's having, but is one of the top 7 teams right now in the AFC. So I think the opponent has a lot to do with it. Zach Tawatari back in the sports office brought up an interesting point, and I don't disagree with him. The Chargers are very much like the Texans. Very much like the Texans. Offensive line issues. Good defense, Texans is better. Spotty offense right now. They're very similar in terms of how the games look. The Chargers have played in a ton of one-score games, and that's what the Texans are typically facing. So the Chargers may seem like a slightly watered-down version of the Texans right now. Leonard says, I think Mills will be good. Put him in right now at this point. In the 5 losses, the Texans scored only 2 touchdowns in the second half. Lennis says we need to get him, Kaylee, an advisor. He's so good at not adjusting, and I blame DeMeco for not doing something to help that atrocious play calling and none adjustment, making offensive coordinator we have. We understand. We understand. Give DeMeco some credit. It appears as though he passed a little bit more of the defense off to Matt Burke, so he could be possibly overseeing the offense a little bit more. Gino says, don't disrespect us in comparison with that team. That team has won what, 11 games? I don't think that's a disrespect. Chargers won 11 games. Joe says, I'm very concerned that when a touchdown is needed, the Texans are not able to score a touchdown in the second half against any above-average teams. Amen, man. Amen. Now, Buffalo, they were able to. Justin says, Texans getting 11 wins is impressive as we are just used to getting 10. Yep. Texans' all-time record for most wins in a season is 12. That was 2012 under Gary Kubiak. And, of course, they finished 12-4, lost in the divisional round. This is now the second time the Texans have had 11 wins. The last time, 2018, under Bill O'Brien, 11-5, lost in the wild card round. They lost to the Colts, 21-7 at NRG. Was that a big T.Y. Hilton game? Ten catches, 85 yards, no touchdowns. Houston's leading receiver in that game was Kiki Kuti. Kiki Kuti, remember him? 11 catches, 110 yards. It's a long time ago, people. More comments here. Leonard says, need to work on offense, but defense keeps us in the game, without a doubt. Trisha, we can't just rely on the defense to win games. C.J. needs to maintain his confidence and make plays like the first 2 touchdowns in the game. Leonard says, I agree. These are the one words that we've come up with thus far. Defense, predictable, lucky, nail biter, awesome. I imagine we'll be hearing from DeMeco here shortly, as he has already spoken at the podium. Red Zone, Texans. 0 for 0, which they were at the 20. I think it was in the second half. Yeah, third quarter. They were at the 20, and then they went backwards 14 yards, 13 or 14 yards. So Chargers were 2 of 5, should have been 3 of 5, but the Chargers Gadsden dropped that call. All right, now let's hear from DeMeco Ryans. This video courtesy of the Houston Texans.
First to start, as always, the light is shining bright on the Texans, but that light is really reflective of our guys' belief in the Lord and Savior, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Like that's what's driven our team, and I'm so proud of our guys and thankful to the Lord for allowing us to allow our lights to shine through him, and just all praise and honor goes to him. Just really proud of every person on this team and organization for putting us in a spot to go play in the playoffs. It's what you play for. It's what you work hard for throughout training camp, what you fight in the season for is for an opportunity, to be in the playoffs and go win it all. So we've earned that. It wasn't given to us. Our guys went out and earned it, and we're extremely proud of everybody for that.
The fast start, the big plays, was that always the strategy all along, or is this something that you guys saw today with the way they lined up?
With the big plays to start the game, it was just really just great execution, starting with the O-line. We had to shuffle some guys up front with the offensive line. It starts with having great protection. Our guys did a great job there. C.J. had outstanding throws, to Higgins and to Noel, both rookies stepping up, making, extremely big plays for us to really give us that fast start, get us going with some excellent momentum. That was really, 2 plays that helped us to be in the position we're in.
When you look back, going back to when you all were 3 and 5, you obviously believe, but what made you feel like this team was special enough to do what you all have done over the last course of the season?
Yeah, I've believed in this team because I know what these guys are about. I know how they work throughout training camp when nobody's watching. I know how close our team got throughout training camp and throughout the season. And I know how we just have guys who are true believers, who are unwavering in their faith, guys who come to work every single day, putting in work no matter what being said on the outside, things that really it doesn't matter to us. Our guys continue to work the right way, and that's why, I believe, because I saw the work ethic that those guys pour into it, the coaches, players, staff, everybody pours their all into what we're doing every single day.
Playoff-like atmosphere coming into this game. How impressive was it for your team to push through some of the miscues that you all had and still get this win?
It was a really, really good football team. Going against the Chargers, tough football team, really tough environment. So it got pretty loud in here. It was hard to communicate, but I like the way our guys continue to battle no matter what we face. It's just a good football game versus a really good playoff team. We have a really great quarterback who made some big-time plays for them today to allow them to stay in the game. So hats off to those guys for the way they showed up.
Being able to get on this clinch and kind of turn this around, what was the turning point from your viewpoint?
From my viewpoint, the turning point for our entire season, I go back to our Jacksonville game. For us to be down as far as we were in that game, and for to have our backup quarterback, Davis Mills, right, to have such a clutch performance to get us into a position to win that game, I feel like that's the game that flipped our season and just showed us, like, no matter what we're up against, no matter who's on the field, if we stay together, stay connected, like, we can overcome anything.
What was the message to the players in the locker room now that you guys are playoff bound?
My message to the guys is just congratulations to everyone because you guys earned this. Like, getting into the playoffs it's not about an opinion or what somebody thinks. Like, you have to earn your way into the playoffs, and our guys played winning football to get us in position to be in the playoffs.
You got the hot start. Was it just basically the flow of the game that sort of brought everything? Because, you thought that you just kept it a little accelerated, but did the flow of the game just sort of bring it back and then just sort of settle into a game and just had to go back and forth and finally got control of the game again?
Yeah, today you saw the ebbs and flows of the game, right? We were able to get some explosive passes early on them, and then they did a great job of, eliminating those explosives and made us earn it, right? And they did a good job on third down. We didn't get off as much as we we didn't stay on the field as much as we wanted to on third down, so they made some really nice plays on third down, playing aggressive, putting the pressure on us. But we stayed the course. And when it mattered most, like when we're there in the fourth quarter, that's what it's about, closing games out in the fourth quarter. We know we had to run the ball. They knew we had to run the football. And for our offensive line, for Woody to run the ball the way he ran it. And I go back also, I know he didn't have a lot of catches, but you go to DeMeco Ryans, right, one of our best players in the clutch time, in the clutch moment, he comes up with another clutch play for us. He closed it out last week versus the Raiders. And then again this week, he shows up in a big moment, making a huge catch to get us across midfield. So it took everybody, and I'm proud of all the guys for the plays they made.
Two-part question. When you look at what your pass rush did, especially Derek Barnett making some big plays out of ball.
The defense showed up with another impressive performance. These guys have been playing lights out all year, every single game. But the way the D-line showed up today, sack after sack, it's really putting pressure on the quarterback, getting him down. It was really cool to see Barnett get a couple sacks. Just a lot of different guys got sacks. Barnett, Will, Daniil, Rankins, everybody was involved. Coach Rod has done a great job with those guys all year. We needed them to play big today, and they did.
So there is some of what DeMeco Ryans had to say following this 20-16 win over the LA Chargers. This is what you play for, DeMeco said. We earned this, meaning the playoff berth with 11 wins. Talked about big plays, great execution, the O-line on those touchdowns in the first quarter. What made him believe in this group after it started 0-3? He says he knew that this was a special group. I know what these guys are about. Saw it during training camp. Sees it on a day-to-day basis. As for the turning point of this season, he points to the Jacksonville game. The game at NRG. The Texans are down 20-3 to the Jaguars, rally to win 36-29. That was on November 9th. He also talked about closing strong, finishing a game, which obviously has been one of DeMeco's catchphrases. It's all about finishing and closing. Talked about Nico Collins, the big catch, part of that final drive, along with Woody Marks and the way he ran. And as a result, you have a 20-16 win for the Houston Texans. While we were listening to DeMeco, we had some one-words come in. I'm going to use a hyphen on them. Nerve-wracking and heart-clenching. Gabriella says nerve-wracking. Tammy says heart-clenching. Gino says Houston versus everybody. Sherry says yay Texans or yeah Texans. Tricia brings up another excellent point. We would be looking at a whole different game if the Chargers had not missed the field goal and extra point. Yep. And dropped a would-be touchdown pass at the 1-yard line. I'm going to go with this for my word. Where do I put it here? I'll put it up here. I'm going to put charmed. Unusually lucky or happy as though protected by magic. I'm going to say charmed. They live a pretty charmed life because of this defense. And I don't know if they're unusually lucky, but not a lot of teams start out 0-3 and then make the playoffs. So I'm going to say charmed. We're also waiting to hear from C.J. Stroud, who has not yet hit the podium. C.J. making a return to California, his home state. Time of possession, pretty much even in this game. 30 minutes, 21 seconds for the Texans, 29-39 for the Chargers. Of course, we'll be talking so much more about the Texans Sunday night on KHO 11 Sports Extra. Former Texan Seth Payne from Sports Radio 610 will join us, as well as Cody Stutes from Houston Football, HOUfootball.com. Those will be our special guests on Sunday night. Scheduled time, 10:30. I haven't checked to see if we have a late game tomorrow. If we do, meaning 3:30, then that will be obviously pushed. Justin saying Pro Bowl kicker for the Chargers making uncharacteristic mistakes without a doubt. I mentioned that earlier. Chargers did everything they could to gift wrap this game to the Texans. Did everything. Texans lost the turnover battle 2-1. Usually that's a recipe for disaster. Mark says, good win, but think refs were in favor of Chargers. From there, LOL, uncalled penalties. Yeah, there were some questionable ones, without a doubt. I always think of, and I can't remember who to attribute it to, but when it comes to officiating, they're not interested. They're not interested in minnows. They're interested in sharks. So every play has a lot of little things going on. But yes, there were some questionable calls in this game for sure, including the call on Dalton Schultz when he gets kneed and pushed by the defensive lineman for the Chargers. He gets up and retaliates, and that's how it happens in sports. Usually the officials see the second guy, not the first one. C.J. Stroud is at the podium right now, so we will hear from him shortly. Now the question that I pose to all of you out there, is there a team that you don't want to face in the playoffs? Is there a team that if you're the Texans, you don't want to face in the playoffs? Because right now, the feeling out there among your pundits and analysts is that the Texans are the team that you do not want to play. And with this win, the Texans have moved up. That shouldn't be minimized either. The Texans are now 6th in the playoff chase. So you have Broncos 1, Patriots 2, Jaguars 3, Bills 4, 1, 2, 3, Steelers 4, technically, 5 Bills, 6 Texans, 7 Chargers. Right now, 4 is not nailed down, but if the Steelers win, they would be number 4 as the AFC Central champs. Or North, sorry. Justin says, maybe it's Denver. They seem to always find a way to win. Yeah? Justin says, thing is, yes, the refs were questionable, but for the most part, all season, the Texans are known for being undisciplined. Yep. It's a lot easier to call penalties on a team that commits a lot of penalties. We can get anyone. We owe Denver an L, says Gino. Texans should be ahead of lame Buffalo. Actually, that's one team that I'm a little wary of. And I know the Texans have handled them, but if you have to go on the road to Buffalo, that's a team I'm a bit wary of. I don't know why. That's a team I'm wary of. So again, right now, Broncos 1, Patriots 2, Jaguars 3. Bills are 5, Texans 6, Chargers 7. And the Steelers would, if the season ended today, the Steelers would make the playoffs as the winner of the AFC North and take over the number 4 seed. Teams that are eliminated: Colts, Dolphins, Chiefs, Bengals, Jets, Titans, Browns, Raiders. But we knew that. Again, these are the one-word answers that you've been providing us to best sum up this win. Heart-clenching, nerve-wracking, awesome, nail-biter, lucky, predictable, defense, and charmed. Charmed being my word. It seems like the Texans do the worst against teams with a strong run game at times. Gino says, anywhere that isn't cold. I agree. I agree. But here's the deal. Broncos, going to be cold. Patriots, going to be cold. And it looks like CJ is done at the podium, so we will be hearing from CJ Stroud. One word, 8. I assume that means 8 wins. Once again, C.J. Stroud, 16 of 28, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, a quarterback rating of 80.1. Woody Marks, 75 all-purpose yards, 71 on the ground, 4 receiving. Joshua says, CJ does so much better when they let him run the up-tempo offense and audibles. He plays better on the run. We need more play action in the playoffs. I'm not mad at that. I think there's a lot to that. I think CJ likes to take shots downfield, and with the offensive line, which has been better, which has definitely been better, I don't have problems rolling him out. I should look to see, and I probably should know this, but which games will KHOU11 have tomorrow, or game? Let's look here. All right, so tomorrow we have one game. It is Pittsburgh at Cleveland. That will be the game. Certainly the Steelers playing for a lot. And that game means so much for the remainder of the AFC playoff picture for at least this week. Appreciate all of you hanging on as we wait for CJ to hear from him at the podium. Colts-Jaguars game tomorrow is a Fox game. So we could not bring you that game. I was wondering if perhaps they might dip in and out of the Steelers-Browns game, but that game is not on CBS. Do we have CJ yet? Who do we have left to play? You have the Colts. One more game against the Colts. Sunday, January 4th, time to be determined. In all likelihood, it will be a noon game, Indianapolis at Houston. Now, it will be interesting to see Jaguars playoff. So the Jaguars cannot clinch the division title on Sunday. However, a win over Indianapolis would leave Jacksonville in first place, holding a one-game lead over Houston heading into Week 18. And now let's hear from C.J. Stroud at the podium in Los Angeles.
Yeah, man, it's just a testament to the hard work. I think, to how, we were built from top to bottom, from our ownership to Nick Caserio to DeMeco to, me and all the, Daniel, Will, and just how our team is built. We're built tough. We're not perfect, but I think, we just try to find a way to win each week. And I think I was never kind of worried just because we weren't getting blown out by anybody. We just weren't finishing games. And I think things are going to happen on Sundays. We're going to give up points. We're going to turn over the ball. It's just how you respond. I think our response from, that time where we were 3-5 on, we responded to those situations better. I think honestly it goes back to consistency of practice. Practice being, really hard, and DeMeco pushing us, and making sure that we're getting the right looks, and when we're not, he lets us know. So it's good to get led by somebody who wants and demands excellence, and he's hard on us, but I think that ultimately helps us to in these type of games to finish out tough wins like that. But I think it goes back to practice.
Did y'all see in the Chargers defense that allowed you all to hit early on those couple of explosive plays in the first quarter?
Yeah, I mean, they play really a solid, shell defense, and kind of like the way the league is going on defense is like they're playing too high shell, and, they're trying to, take away your best guys. So we kind of knew that, and, came up with some good plays and designed some good plays just to pick on that. And, got to just keep that going. It can't just be in the first quarter. It got to be throughout the whole game. So I think something we can learn from is, is just keeping the gas on and making sure, we're still calling it. I'm taking care of the ball, and, we're moving forward.
What's the thing you're most proud about this season, when you guys started? You guys are now. What's the thing you're most proud of this season?
I think I'm most proud of how we stuck together as brothers, sisters as well. Everybody in our facility, we stuck together. When I was in college, we used to have this term called Ohio versus the world. A lot of times in this league and, in games, and it's just how the world is. people turn their back on you, or they start talking crazy and just doing whatever. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what's happened on the outside. I thought when people were trying to divide us and try to pick on one person or one thing or whoever, we had opportunity to stick together. So I thought that's what this year has been for me, and that's what I'm most proud of, is just in that time we stuck together, and stayed one, because we could have easily splintered off, and I think the season would look way different.
At what point did you know this team maybe has something special?
Training camp. It's just, I don't. If you look at the NFL, every game almost comes to one score. And, just because it wasn't going our way for 3 weeks in the beginning doesn't mean it's not going to go the rest of the week. Like, what if we would have won out? That was our mindset every game, just one game at a time. And that doesn't mean, the urgency wasn't up. The urgency's up every week. But I think, for us to, be able to, take it one game at a time is why we're in the position we're in.
CJ, I apologize if you've been asked this already, but to get this win here today, how good does it feel to win that 8th game in a row, secure that playoff berth, especially with your teammates knowing the adversity that you all came through?
Yeah, man, it's dope. It's a blessing, to be, able to go to, the playoffs for third year in a row for me. And it's funny because it's something that me and Will talk about a lot. Of we don't want to just get used to this, and of course, yeah, you want to get used to it, not like that, but in a sense of it takes a lot of hard work to get here. So the work needs to be put in. It's not just every year, the Texans are stamped to go to the playoffs. That might be the outside noise, or people might have it the other way, but what really matters is the work we put in. And so just not getting used to success. So, when that time comes, you're still grateful, still, thankful for all those times, because, it wasn't great at first, but, as we kept going, I think for me, my gratitude has gone up to another level because, technically we weren't supposed to be here.
All right, everybody, that was C.J. Stroud at the podium in Los Angeles. A couple of more comments. Billy says C.J. will lead us to a Super Bowl. Justin says C.J. was talking to those Texans fans that keep trying to bench him for Mills, LOL. I do want to bring up this comment by Joshua real quick as we are wrapping up here following a 20-16 win. Joshua says, probably my only chance to ever have CJ possibly hear this, so I'll say it here. I encourage CJ to watch old tapes of Brady and Manning, paying close attention to how they audible snap counts to catch a defense out of position or running off the field. I encourage him to watch old tapes of Brady and Manning, paying close attention to how they audible snap counts to catch a defense out of position or running off the field. It's interesting you have this observation, Joshua, or you are mentioning this, because C.J. Stroud told us, and I can't remember which week it was, he did spend time, I think, with Nick Caley, watching old videos of Tom Brady and the New England offense. Now, I don't know the particulars, but CJ did mention that he was watching videos with, or rather of, the Patriots and how they operate their offense. I imagine it was all encompassing. So yes, very interesting that you would bring that up, because indeed, C.J. Stroud has done just that. Gino says, death by 1,000 cuts will get us that ring. Norma says, CJ needs to get it together. Jacksonville is not going to be easy. All right, everybody. Thank you, as always, for hanging out with us and contributing. Here's the words that you provided: 8, leading to the number of wins in a row. Heart-clenching, nerve-wracking, awesome, nail-biter, lucky, predictable, defense or defense. This isn't Canada. We're not talking hockey. Defense. And I said charmed. That's going to do it. Texans win 20-16, their 8th straight victory, as they now improve to 11-5 and officially clinch a playoff spot. And they're heading to the dance Anything can happen now in the postseason. Now we wait to see where the Texans eventually stack up within the postseason picture. As always, thanks for joining us. From the KHO 11 Newsroom, I'm Jason Bristol. Until next time.